Everhood. It's like Undertale on acid. It's like DDR on acid. It's like Jack Black on Jimmy Fallon. It's like $10 on Steam. Please buy it. We truly live in the golden age of indie games, and so many of the best and most artistic indie games have received critical acclaim and profound public proliferation. Undertale, Binding of Isaac, Hollow Knight, Hades. Not Everhood, though. Honestly, it's mind-boggling that a game this high quality was just completely glazed over by the public eye. As far as huge creators are concerned, the only person I've ever seen acknowledge this game was Moist Critical, who gave the game a very positive review, so naturally I need to talk about it as well. And I'll try my best to avoid spoilers because the best way to play this game is blind. Everhood, an ineffable tale of the inexpressible divine moments of truth, Jesus that title, is a highly unconventional RPG adventure rhythm game. The story has a huge focus on its characters, most of which are shockingly likable. Even the heinous villains and intentionally annoying characters are really difficult to dislike because the game radiates such huge amounts of charm. In terms of plot, you play as a little red puppet who tries to reclaim their lost arm. This naturally puts you at odds with many strange and wonderful characters and almost feel ripped from an old Jim Henson movie. Gameplay is what separates this from most modern RPGs because it functions more akin to a rhythm game where each enemy has their own battle theme, and the attacks come at you to the rhythm of the song, and these fights can be hard. There are several late game and hidden bosses that'll kick the crap out of you, grind you into a fine powder, snort it, and start beating you even harder. Another comment worth making is that this game has one of the best soundtracks I've ever heard in a video game. The majority of the songs are just so catchy, and avoid falling into the Friday Night Funkin' trap where harder enemies have scores that just devolve into. Also, I can't prove it because for some reason my leaderboard data was deleted, but I was like number 5 in the world on the jump rope level, and that was my proudest achievement for a good long while. It's fine though. I'm not mad. Not mad. I'm not going to get into specifics about plot and characters, but what I will say is that the world of Everhood is fleshed out so well, and I'm legitimately saddened that so much of the lore is left obscured, because there's obviously a massive iceberg underneath everything explicitly stated. A lot of this is by virtue of the game's length, taking about as long to beat as Undertale, a teensy bit less time in my experience, a breezy 6 hours or so. You're likely to beat it on your second or third sitting, or all in one go if you're a freak like that. Speaking of Undertale... Yes! No! In all seriousness, the games have their similarities, but both are very distinct. Everhood is much more surrealist, and the whole game has a dreamlike feeling about it, almost as if you're Alice exploring Wonderland while listening to heavy metal and dubstep. I'd also say that Everhood is more cynical and mature in its themes, as opposed to Undertale's idealistic pure good versus pure evil dichotomy. This isn't me saying Everhood is better in that regard, more so that Everhood and Undertale touch on a lot of the same themes, but approach them using two very different philosophies, which most clearly manifests itself in the game's endings. What I do appreciate more about Everhood is that while it's not completely devoid of fourth wall chicanery, there's significantly fewer circumstances in which characters address the player directly, and when it does happen, there's actually an important plot reason for it that I can't get into here. They also have similar visuals, though Everhood has several moments throughout where it include all sorts of crazy effects that actually had me convinced for a second that something was wrong with my computer. It's easily the most psychedelic gaming experience I've ever had. In terms of which is better, it's very difficult to say, especially since both games prevail in places that the other doesn't. What I will say is that of the two, I'd be more inclined to play Everhood a second time as opposed to Undertale, just because nearly everything Everhood does is executed so beautifully, and I hope and pray that it gets a treatment similar to Undertale's sort of sequel, Deltarune. Anyways, yeah, Everhood is funny, somber, exciting, dreamlike, psychedelic, but most importantly, it's fun. Summing everything up into one point, Everhood is kinda like Dark Souls?